the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Always live as well on the It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And I'm going to get in a fight with Chris Russell or Linnell Willingham because one of them took my mic out of program. That's very rude. Russell! Just kidding. Oh, there, he just emerged from around the corner, but he's far enough down that he doesn't. It's a wacky bit, or he couldn't hear me. It's a wacky bit. Every day after their show, they waddle down over to 106.7 The Fan. What's going on down there? Darius and Ryan are great over in the production studio at Grant and Danny. What are they doing down there?
I think since they probably spend so much time. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, I had my headphones on wrong. I think since they spend so much time, attacking one another, I think it's smart of them to, go see other people. To,
I mean,
have
sure,
cooler
but they
heads
could
prevail.
just go their separate ways. Why do they do? I don't know. Whatever. Next time they leave, don't make it so that I can't do my show. That's all I'm asking.
When you worked earlier in the day, did you, after your show was over, did you leave or did you hang around for a little bit?
I mostly got the hell out of here as fast as I could.
Okay.
Did you hang around? When
Maybe
you and Travis were at 9 a.m.?
Nah, we were getting out of here. Maybe like 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, like maybe I might go say hi to someone real quick if I had something, but I'm not trying to hang around for funsies.
Oh no, we were gone.
Yeah. We're done working. And we got a heart, like, our show ends. It's not like a work day where it's like, oh, well, I could send another email. Like, most people kind of don't have a hard out at the end of the day.
Yeah.
We got a time where our show is over.
Yeah. And
then we're out, especially because by the time we leave, we're the last ones here.
Mm-hmm.
So unless there's an overtime show. We are Audi 3000. Today on this show, right now, Adam Peters and Dan Quinn are speaking. We listened to the first 20 minutes or so of the press conference. Some interesting stuff for sure. And we'll get you some clips and everything as the show goes. But we will also, at 4:30, 5:30, and 6:30, fill the remaining 8 spots in our Hoffman Show Fantasy League. I have one. Anthony has one. We are giving our celebrity spot this year to NFL content creator / my good friend Tony Squares, who does some of the YouTube stuff with me. Like we actually did a live earlier today, Anthony, that a lot of people enjoyed. Tony gave out his bets of the year, a few of his bets of the year, including, he goes, this was actually really funny. He goes, do you want like the optimists? Like basically, do you want overs or do you want the depths of despair, the unders? And I was like, typically I'm an optimist guy, but with your sense of humor, Tony, I want the unders. I want the teams that you hate. Because Tony will take down your team in a way that feels personal for the sake of humor. And Anthony, one of his teams that he is not fond of, one of the teams that he wants the under on, is your Indianapolis Colts.
Where's the camera?
Look right into it. Tell Tony what's up.
Tony, I don't appreciate the disrespect. Also, super sidebar, Craig, what is the number, though?
8.5.
8.5? Are you serious?
He said he would go under if it was 6.5.
Oh, you're definitely crazy. Oh, my gosh. The fact that the Colts won, what did they win, 9 games last year with Gardner Minshew? Tell me how they look with Anthony Richardson in at quarterback. The defense was playing lights out. Like, come on, man. I said like that.
I said that since Zaire is your best friend and thus a friend of the show, I am contractually obligated to say nothing bad about the Colts. So
can't believe I really cannot. But he take the under 6.5. Disrespectful right there.
It kind of is. It kind of is disrespectful.
I don't think it's kind of. It is disrespectful. Just saying.
Okay. He had his reasons.
I would love to
rushing efficiency, or the defenses they have to face. It was compelling.
They don't
I don't
even
know,
have a first place schedule this year.
But all the defenses they play. This is not a Colt show. We'll do this another time. The point is, Tony and his gigantic TikTok personality are taking one of our celebrity spots, even though Anthony currently is probably wishing he had veto power over that. And then we got an email from Morgan, who we'll talk about this more at 4:30. Morgan proved via email that he got the show so much that we put him straight in the league. So we'll sacrifice a spot either later in the show or in this hour. We'll see how many good calls we get, but that is coming up. The annual Hoffman Show. You call in, tell us why you belong in the league. We'll explain the rules more as we go. Coming up at 4:30. Right now, I've left myself an awkward amount of time to discuss what Dan Quinn and Adam Peters said. We'll go into this more next, and we'll get some actual audio to accompany it. But the biggest thing that really Adam and Dan went back to in this press conference that, for all I know, is still ongoing, is that they were doing what's best for the team. And they could always bend every single answer to why they picked a certain player, to short-term versus long-term, to all the things that you could possibly think to ask in any form of question about this roster, to we did what we thought is best for the team. And that is, I would say, a frustrating answer for us to chew on in the media specifically. Like, if I'm supposed to try to make content out of that, it makes my job more difficult, because if they were more descriptive on what it meant to be best for the team, we think this guy's best for the team because we like his length, or we are prioritizing certain traits, or they gave some more detail, then we'd have probably more to chew on the show today. And this, unfortunately, on a big picture level, is kind of what we're stuck with now with Adam Peters, for right now, at the very least. And I'm willing to give, like, Will Dawkins and Michael Winger some of this. I'm willing to give, any new executive on some level a little bit of leeway to say, like, okay, I'm going to grade you on your scale. You told me that this move is best for the team, and if it goes out and blows up in your face, well, then my trust in you goes down a little bit. And I'm transparent about that to say, like, this is not blind trust. I am paying attention. I see the results that are happening, and I will watch them and the trajectory. And are you hitting the benchmarks that you set? I will always tell you that I will grade, especially in the early years of a project, I will grade them based off their metrics, because to say, like, I want this, like, okay, I want them to win a Super Bowl in the next 5, or be competing for Super Bowls in 3 to 5 years. And I want that window for Super Bowl competition to be open over the long term. That's always going to be my goal for any team in town is, hey, if you're embarking on a rebuild, you got a couple years to do the rebuilding. And then I want to see you be competitive. And once you're at the point where we all agree that you should be competitive, then we get to start judging you on wins and losses. And we are a far away, maybe not even that far, depending on how good Jaden is, but we are at least a year away, if not multiple years away, from judging them based off wins and losses. And so for right now, it's really hard to say, oh, this is best for the team. That's what Adam says. Well, I agree or disagree, because the team, we're talking about not just in the short term, but the long term. But the one thing that I do want to latch onto, the one thing that I do really appreciate about this group, is something that Adam said came out of a manual that he got when he was working for the New England Patriots 20 years ago, which is, we are not collecting talent, we are building a team. Let's dive into that sentiment and let you hear more from Adam Peters and Dan Quinn next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980 and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app, and we are live with you on the day that the Commanders and everyone else in the league takes one more step to finalizing their roster. The Commanders make a trade today for John Ridgeway. We told you yesterday that was very likely to happen. Ridgeway to New Orleans with a 7th-round pick for a 6th in return. So that cleans up that. There's one more roster spot then available. We'll see how ultimately they fill it. They also re-sign a ton of guys to the practice squad. For whatever it's worth, Anthony, I actually think we did a pretty darn good job on our practice squad projection. We wound up not going as intently on defense as I wish we would have, but like a name like Andre Jones Jr., I probably would have put on there. He winds up making it. A ton of the guys we circled on offense make it. I will say one guy that does not make it that I thought probably would get brought back, but they decided to move on is Martavis Bryant. A lot of people think that's some kind of crazy thing. I simply do not, because he is a 2014 draft pick at 32 years old who hasn't played in the NFL since 2018. And I think what we see here yesterday, the moves today, is that Adam Peters is making bets on young players with high upside and a lot of physical traits. And Martavis Bryant only fits the latter of those. And so he would rather take a swing on someone with a longer leash and higher upside than someone who maybe is a little bit better right now, but again, hasn't played in the league since 2014. And so, or sorry, since 2018, and is 32 years old. So that is where we are. All right. Adam Peters also, somewhat shockingly, considering where they are, didn't make any waiver claims. He says today that not only did they not get anybody on waivers, but it's not like they put in for one of the corners that Carolina signed. Peter's saying they didn't put in any waivers claimed. And just a few moments ago at the press conference, talked about why he decided to not do that. Anthony, do you have that clip, or am I expected to?
Oh, I didn't know you wanted me to play the clip. I had saved them.
They're in here. I didn't know if this was one of those things where you had them or I had them. Here. Do we have the waiver wire? That's the clip. Adam Peters on the waiver wire situation.
Yeah, I think what I think that's reflective of, John, is more. One, I want to thank our pro staff, our pro scouting staff. They scoured preseason tape for hours and hours and hours, and really got together and gave us a lot of really good candidates to bring in and to bring up, and made tapes, had our coaches watch them and all that. But in the end, I think it really speaks to the guys we have in this building, and looking through the waiver wire and being really happy with the guys that we have. And we thought, you compare them to the guys that you have and the guys that are out there, and we thought, the guys that we have in the building we're really happy with. So at this point, we didn't make any waiver claims, and we had the number 2 waiver claim. We still have the number 2 waiver claim, and we'll have that for the first 3 weeks at least, and hopefully no longer than that. And we'll keep doing that until we're always going to do what's best for the team and how to make our team better. So we didn't see that in this round, but it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be weeks from now. So.
And again, players are going to continue to move around the NFL. For instance, today, Carolina claims 5 players. Well, that means they have to cut 5. And that is something that I saw a couple of smart folks, Albert Breer amongst others, point out today on Twitter and online, is that, you can't just, especially if you're Washington or Carolina at the top, like you can't just, shotgun 15 waiver claims, because if you get all of them, you can't be like, actually, never mind. We didn't realize we get all of those guys. No, you have to prioritize, because every single one that you get, you have to cut a player. And thus, they might not have had anybody that they wanted to cut over someone on the waiver wire. Carolina goes and cuts someone. Maybe that fits what they want better. Carolina changes out some people, and they had an overload at one position that they were more talented at than Washington. I know Carolina's roster is not that great, so that feels unfeasible. But say someone else does down the list. And all of a sudden you get a player that is now going through waivers and becomes available, and you go make that claim. And right now, because of the Ridgeway trade, unless there's a move that I haven't seen yet, they actually have a roster spot, so you don't have to worry about waiving anybody. So this is still something that's in flux. Also, the veterans that are out there, they could still sign right now. So someone like a Noah Brown, who's got multiple years of NFL experience, he doesn't even go through the waiver process. He was a free agent immediately yesterday and is probably fielding multiple offers right now. If Washington comes out on top of those, which they very well could, they have a ton of money. So, if someone wants to pay a vet $1.1 million and Washington's like, we don't care, we'll pay you 1.3. Does that vet go like that extra $200,000 is worth it to me? Depends on maybe the situation. Do they want to go to a competitor? Are they willing to invest in the Washington project? Like, there's a lot of factors for everybody out there to decide, and we'll see what ultimately gets decided. Of course, they're trying to build a team. They're trying to build something that can be good this year. It's not all like, we don't care. That's certainly not the message. And this close to the season, it's all in for seeing how good they can be this year. They made some long-term planning decisions, I think, long ago on how good they might be this year and what kind of chance they wanted to give themselves to be good this year. What some of their other priorities in terms of identifying talent and building up from within were going to be this year. And so Dan Quinn was asked about building the identity part of the Washington Commanders and how they've done so far and how the decisions they made around the 53 and the practice squad and the waiver wire go into all that.
I think you're on the right track, Ben, that you better have an identity and know what you're going to be about and how you get down, because if you don't, you'll just kind of hodgepodge it around. And so I think you see us play, you've got a glimpse so far of speed, of physicality, of going to finish. And so those are some of the traits that we admire about a lot of the players on this 70-man roster. And the more we do it, the stronger it's going to get. But that is a really important piece of it.
So there you go. The physicality, some of that stuff is definitely what they're looking for. And that's pretty obvious based off of not just the 70 that were named, but like, look who they brought in the offseason. Look at the kind of player. Look at the traits, the physical characteristics. And I'll go to the KJ Henry piece. KJ is a very talented player. KJ is someone who I think fits a lot of the mold of what they want from like an attitude, a kind of intentionality, all that kind of stuff. But he's a little bit undersized. He doesn't have tremendous length or reach or physical. Whoa. That was fun, Ant. How did that happen?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm over here looking right now.
Huh. That was interesting.
Yeah.
It just the ads took him out. I know we got to pay the bills, but we got to pay him yet.
No, I don't think so.
Okay. All right. Well, you got it under control over there, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless somebody's in the system. I don't know.
All right. Well, you go investigate that. I'm going to keep talking about football. Sorry about that, everybody. It really did accentuate the point, though. Ba-dum. KJ Henry. As I was saying, KJ Henry is a guy that fits a lot of what they want to do from an intentionality, a makeup, all that kind of stuff. But he doesn't have some tremendous, like 6'4", super long arms, crazy 40 time, any of those types of kind of freakish physical traits. And Javonte Jean-Baptiste does, and Jamin Davis does. And so they wind up keeping those players over KJ Henry. And clearly what KJ offers is valuable. The Bengals, a contender, were like, yeah, we'll take KJ Henry. But Washington is like, okay, let's see if we can hit some home runs, because if we can turn Jamin Davis on a Micah Parsons path, and again, do I think realistically that's possible? Hell no. Micah Parsons is the best, arguably the best pass rusher in the league. Thinking that guy was just kind of floating in the background all along is ridiculous. But can they get him to where he's a starting caliber or double-digit sack guy? Like, let's find out. Let's give him the snaps and the leeway to see like what he can be in a bigger role. And they want to figure that out. And then that way, if they have that guy, they know they don't have to spend mega draft capital on it next year. So let's take a swing. And that seems to be, I think, in multiple positions, the way that they are going, but especially at one in defensive end. As for Adam Peters and what he has learned about building a roster, and especially being in the number one seat, it goes back to something that Adam has been practicing and has been preached to him for 20-plus years.
Yeah, I think you said it. That was the first personnel manual I ever had, John, was Patriots, and it says, we're not collecting talent, we're building a team, and that's what we're trying to do here too, and that rings true 20-some years later. And I think we're going to keep getting better at it. The more we're around each other, the more that our scouting staff knows what they're looking for on the field, offensively and defensively. We're going to get better and better and better, and we're already on our way to that, probably faster than I thought we would be, and really excited for what's to come in the future.
That little faster than I thought it would be is probably going to go under the radar, but I am curious about that. The fact that he thinks maybe we're a little better than I thought we would be, because very clearly, and we'll play this bite for you later, he did address the fact that so much of the 2023 draft class and so much of what was here got wiped out. But considering what they clearly thought, flipping 30, was like 36, I think, by the end, players that are new from the 53 last year, it's insane. You don't do that in the NFL. But the fact that they thought the cupboard was that bare, were able to fill it with enough stuff to get by, and maybe it came together in a way that they didn't even anticipate being possible. I'm intrigued to see what they can be this year. Not that that guarantees anything, not that I'm really adjusting my expectations, but maybe I'm turning my optimism up, half a tenth on the dial. So we'll see what they can be. But the idea of hey, we're building a team, not collecting talent, that to me is one of the things in sports that teams get wrong. Teams just try to get, and especially when they have talent, like that's actually the worst, is let's call it the Los Angeles Lakers, right? Oh, we got LeBron. We got to get more talent. It's like, no, you need to surround LeBron with the right pieces. You need to re-sign Alex Caruso, not go chase Russell Westbrook. Like those kinds of moves are what kill potential franchises, and it happens, or potential winning championship teams, and it often happens at the inflection point when you have the resources to move and you chase the wrong things. And at this beginning point, like, yes, they need to collect talent because they just don't have enough of it. But now that they've got the quarterback figured out, presumably, that Jaden Daniels is what we've seen so far and will continue to be the centerpiece of this organization, hopefully at least for 5, if not 10 or 15 years, then surrounding him with the right pieces, supplementary / complementary on offense and then ultimately defense, that is the mission, not just to see, hey, how many individually brilliant players can we have, regardless of how they fit with the talent around them, what we want to be schematically, and how the roles need to be filled across this offense and across this defense. All right, when we get back here on the Hoffman Show, we are taking your calls. The number is 301-230-0980. The calls we are taking are for you to play fantasy football with us, with me, with Anthony, with my friend Tony Squares, with Mitchell, who's a frequent listener who's won his way into the league by sending me an email. And the way you get into the league is you call us and you tell us why you should be in the league. What I don't want is your fantasy football resume. What I do want is something that proves that you are a loyal listener to the show, that you get the show, and that you belong in this league. It's very open-ended on purpose. I can't tell you exactly what is going to get you in the league. I can tell you telling me that you've won 17 fantasy football championships will not be. 301-230-0980. We have up to 3 spots to auction off over the next half hour. So get your calls in. 301-230-0980. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We're brought to you by Floor & Decor. Unbeatable prices, unmatched in-stock selection. Floor & Decor has more styles of laminate, vinyl, tile, wood, and stone. For anyone looking for the right look at the right price, your next beautiful space is at Floor & Decor. Anthony, I don't have a pen on me right now, and it's that sucks. But you're gonna be able to keep track of people over there. So we're gonna have to live with digital note taking here, because the phone lines are almost full with people who are calling in to be in our fantasy football league, and that's great. And I don't want to make any declarative rankings. I don't want to put anybody in with such limited spots available before we actually hear from everybody. So slightly different rules from how this has worked in the past, but this is the primer. We are doing a 12-person fantasy league. We have 3 celebrity, big air quotes, spots. These celebrities are me, the host of the show, Anthony, the producer of the show, and my friend Tony Squares, who is a very popular sports betting content creator on TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts. And he also joins me on my YouTube live streams that we do on my YouTube page during the day. Like once a week, once a month, whatever. So Tony's going to be in the league as well, which will add a nice pop of humor to the league. And it makes a lot of sense because our hope is that next Wednesday, we'll consult with the league to see on what time, but next Wednesday we will do a live stream on my YouTube page of the actual draft in this fantasy league. But what we've done in the past is have people call in, and we've spent the entire hour of radio trying to parse through calls until we have all the spots. However, what we've realized, Anthony, is that is unfair to the entirety of our listenership. The 4 o'clock hour used to get all of the spots, and there's some people that don't get off work till 5 or 6. So we are going to, over the next 25 minutes and the next 2 segments of radio, fill up to 3 spots. There is 1 spot that has already been claimed by Morgan, whose email I'm going to read in a moment. But basically what we're going to do now, Anthony, is I'm going to first read Morgan's email, and then we will get to the calls. I'm going to tell you you're on the list or you're off the list. The bar is high. If you're on the list, you've got a shot. And then Anthony and I will ultimately put our heads together on the 3 people that get spots before 5 o'clock. And if you're off the list, well, you didn't have a chance. Morgan cheated the system. Morgan emailed and said with a subject line, I should be in the fantasy league because I listened to every one of the longer episodes talking about the podcast. I listen to every smaller segment so you guys get more advertising dollars. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Flattery and making us money. Excellent way to cheat the system, Morgan. Morgan, you get the show. Morgan is in the league. So that means we have 8 spots remaining. Anthony, are we ready to take the calls?
Let's get it, baby.
All right, Marcus, you called first. You get the first shot. Why should you be in the fantasy league?
Well, basically, I have some words to describe you guys. So I'm going to say a word, then I'll elaborate a little.
Okay.
So if you will.
Go ahead.
All right. First word I have is symbiotic. You guys have a great relationship, and I mean that in a positive way. Symbiotic can be taken in a negative way, but, I mean, you guys bounce each other well. Freaking frack. Love it.
Okay.
Second one, the word is ready. And I look at you as ready for FAQs, not frequently asked questions, but frequently asinine questions. You read people like you have predetermined answers for those type of questions.
Okay.
Articulate, smooth, and they don't have a word to say otherwise.
Marcus, I got to say, I'm loving your call so far because flattery will get you far. However, we don't understand quite yet why you belong in the league. So you got like 20 seconds to make your case why you, besides being incredibly flattering and having some good humor here, belong in the league.
No problem. You guys, especially you say one word, shut people down. That's analyst. You analyze, you don't just give your opinion. I like to rate myself as a so-called or self-proclaimed analyst of the game. And, I think it'll be kind of fun, again, because I listen to you guys so much. It's almost like your cousins. So I just like to be one of the 9 remaining spots.
Okay.
See, take my chance and win the whole league.
Marcus, I'm gonna say you're on the list, but you're gonna be holding on by a thread here. I very much appreciate your kind words, and I love that you listen to the show and enjoy it. But I have a feeling that we're gonna get some wacky bits here, and you know my fondness for wacky bits. So, Marcus, you're gonna be
right,
on.
No problem. Thanks.
Just stay on hold though, because we got to make sure that we have contact information and get back in touch in case you make the cut. So, hang on 1 second. Let's go to Al. Al, why do you belong in the league?
Oh, I don't have any good reason for you. Honestly, I rack my brain, and I got no good reason, other than the fact that I'm a fan of your show. I'm charming. I'm witty. I'm generally funny. But I have no evidence of that right now, other than you taking my word. So,
Al, it's a perfect call. But you're not going to make the league, unfortunately. So, Al, we really appreciate it. And you clearly get the show. But I know the kind of bangers that we get when we do this, and you got a year to try to get into next year's league. That's the good news, Al. All right, let's keep it moving. Let's go to Dennis. Dennis, why should you be in the league?
Well, I'll tell you what. I go back to Ken Beatrice's sports call with WMAL way back in the day, and when he gave it up, it went to Steve Zabin on Sports Call 2000. And then, that was on 980, and he's terrific, and I love him. And then they sold the show. Zabin stuck around, though, and in the afternoon slot, him and Goldie and Cooley joined them for a while. They were wonderful. That's who I listened to. I didn't go to the competition at 106.7. And then somebody who's now in the afternoon, who I could not abide by, took over the 4 o'clock slot. Not going to name names, and I was despondent. I couldn't stand it. I was listening to 106.7, and I went, I don't like that either. And then you showed up. And I'm telling you, when you showed up, it was a breath of fresh air. It was like, oh, my God, somebody who is intelligent, but is also entertaining, very informative, and the stuff that you do, I get. So I just love the show. I'm glad that somebody who could stand up to Zabin and Goldie has taken over finally. So even if I don't make it, thank you for being here.
Well, Dennis, I will say, people are going real hard on the flattery, and I'm like blushing at the moment. I really appreciate that. The history of this radio station is not something that is ever lost on me, from the names that you mentioned for sure, but also going back to Big John and Tony and the absolute legends of this sports market. So while I do think that's probably not going to be enough, flattery seems to be the consistent thing. And again, I love it. Wow, what a day for me here. We got all kinds of promo material. I don't think that's going to be enough to make the show, but I do appreciate the kind words.
All right. Can I actually tell you my background? I was a football official for all of my adult life, boys club, high school, men's touch, semi-pro. My father, Bob Chick, if you look him up, ran the Football Officials Association around here.
Now we're talking, Dennis.
Until his death. And there we go.
Okay, so
I have 4 living brothers who all did the same thing. We know our stuff.
A dedication to the game for life that is in your family. Now we're talking. Now we're getting to the point of the show. Dennis, I'm going to put you on hold. You are definitively on the list. Please do not hang up because Anthony needs to get your contact info. Let's go to Derek. Derek, thanks for calling. You're going to have our last shot at this. If you're on hold right now, though, don't hang up. We're going to take more calls after the break. But Dennis, last chance to get on the list before we go to break here. Why do you belong on the show or in the fantasy league?
What's going on, Hoffman? I think you said Dennis, but this is Derek.
Oh, sorry, Derek, my bad. Read the wrong line on the thing.
It's all good, man. It's all good. Hey, still love you, man. Still love your show. But a couple of reasons why I think I would be a great fit for the league. One, I mean, of course, I listen to you faithfully. You're great take, a great analyst. For two, I'm a big, huge football fan. For one. I still call my squad the Redskins. I can't call them the Commanders like how y'all be doing, to be honest. But, for two, I'm just a big...
You know what's about to happen. Derek, I'm going to let you finish, but you know what's required to happen because you're a regular listener of the show, right? You know what's about to hatch you?
Okay.
We are the
What's about to
Commanders.
happen, man?
It's just the way it is, man. All right, last you got like 20 more seconds to make your pitch here before we gotta keep it moving. What? Give me your
cool.
best point.
Nah, definitely for one. Like I said, too, I'm a big, huge football fan. I'm also analyst at the game. You know, I know basically almost every player, almost every team. For 3, I'm a good, funny guy. I like to talk trash, not too much trash. I don't want to hurt too many feelings or anything like that. But I think I'd just be a great fit for the team just because of my personality, and I got some positive energy too as well.
Derek, I can definitely tell. Here's what I would tell you. You're more than welcome to call the show and talk ball anytime. I don't think that's going to be enough of a separator to get you in the league. But I really appreciate your loyal listenership, and I appreciate your attempt. And call back during the season as much as you want, and let's talk some ball. All right.
Let's talk some ball. I got you, Hoffman.
All right. Thanks, Derek. All right. So here's I think I need to give better instructions. This might be a me thing. Look, again, the flattery, very, very nice. The fact that a lot of you are really smart football people, love that. But we need something about you that says why you belong in the league. And it could be, like, one of the big things is, like, do you have some awesome experience with the show? One person that if they call back and say, I'm claiming my spot, if Ross in Tampa, if you're listening, our guy, who called in and told us the story of how the show almost got him into a fight while he was doing his job as a delivery person with the manager of a strip club, that's how you get in the league. Like, we need your personal experience, why you connect with the show. Yes, it is very nice of many of you to all of a sudden be telling me here on this Tuesday that you really enjoy what we do. That honestly means a lot to me. I am not in the search for flattery, though. I am in the search for why you belong in our fantasy football league, and we will find more of you who do next on the Team 980. All right, we're filling up the Hoffman Show Fantasy League at 301-230-0980. At Cobra Commander said, Hoffman's tightened up the rules for the league this year. Yeah, a little bit, Anthony. Although it's really not different. It's just people are trying different approaches. The only thing I said in terms of instructions was, I don't want your fantasy resume, because we get a lot of that. And that seems to then put people down a lane of just ultimate flattery, which, again, should make for great promo material, but is not necessarily going to get you into the league. I did get a tweet from Dirty Reds who said, I've always enjoyed your insight. Sorry I can't call. I'm a father of twin 2-year-old girls who get 99% of my attention. Please consider me for your league. You can't call because you're being a good dad? That puts you on the list. Like, that's someone who gets the show. That's someone who gets my priorities. Go be a good dad. Have one earphone in on the Odyssey app. Make sure you can hear your screaming children out of the other. This is the kind of thing that will get you on the show, or get you in the league. 301-230-0980. Let's see who's been on hold the longest. Let's go to Rob and PG. Rob, why should you be in the Hoffman Show Fantasy League?
First of all, nice to hear you guys again. This is my second time. Last year, I think I came off a little too cocky. I was on the Dulles Toll Road, pulled over. But I said, I'm not going to let that stop me. I said, I'm going to listen faithfully. And I did a full wind sprint to the parking lot just now so I could get some privacy to try to get back on with you fellas.
All right, let's go. Let's see what you got. Rob in year 2. Let's hear it.
Yes, sir. So, Rob in year 2, man, not just an avid listener watching it, but I've just like you, when you were on the beat, you did the extra things to get that information we needed so we could be satisfied as fans. I am going to do that extra work to bring that extra to the league to make sure that you guys have the best time and the best experience. So I'm going to have fun. I'm pumped up, and I hope that on the second attempt that I'm able to get it this time.
Rob, I don't know what that means, though. Like, it's a fantasy football league. Everyone's going to have to do their own work. Everyone's going to have to, like, I admire your effort, and the Hoffman Show loves a wind sprint, but I don't
It's 105 out, man. Come
that
on.
That is a good point. All right, here's what I'm saying. Rob, you're tentatively on the list. I'm going to put you on hold, let you talk to Anthony. It doesn't mean you're in the league, but you've made it past the first gate, if you will. All right, so Rob's
Hey, that's
Rob
better than Cole Turner. I'm glad.
Rob is temporarily on the list. Let's go to is it Tayon? Sorry, I don't have a phonetic here. Tayon, first of all, how do I say your name correctly? Tayon?
Yep.
Tayon. All right, Tayon, why should you be in the league?
All right. My time is shine. The reason I should be in the league is because I am what they call a talking head killer. Meaning I will call your show and get on your nerves with some of the dumbest hot takes that some of us regular sports fans have. So wouldn't you love to have me in your league so you can whoop up on me just to shut up fans like me that always calling in saying something ridiculous? Give me that shot.
Tion,
see if you can do it.
I admire the pitch. That is kind of creative. I kind of want to put you on the list, even though you're the kind of person that makes me hate myself. You're the kind of person that calls in and makes me want to quit this job because I can't believe someone actually thinks of. And if you're doing that on purpose to troll me, then I should, no, I don't want to deal with you more often. This seems like the opposite of a good pitch, Tion. It's so terrible that you're on the list. All right, Anthony, get Tion's information. No one else can play that card, and please don't be that person. But it's so bad that I admire it. And honestly, Anthony, one of our show mantras, Anthony's busy answering the phone. Look at this man work over there. One of our show mantras, I stole this from Levitard, but when we're good, we're good. And when we're bad, we're really good. And Tion just kind of took that. Let's go to Big Slam. Big Slam, why do you belong in the league?
Good afternoon, evening, whatever you want to call it. You know what, Hoff? I'm just feeling lucky today. I'm just going to call and see if I can get in just to be that person to win this whole darn thing.
No, Slam, you're not. But I admire the attempt. It was a good try. It was a good try. Let's go to Billy in Miami. Billy, You're calling from not the DMV. That's a good first step. That's a level of dedication. All right, why should you be in the fantasy league?
Yeah, great timing, Craig. First of all, I'll start with a compliment. You own the airwaves, which we all know, and you're the only show I've ever called, and I've called many, many times, as you know. But I'm going to give you a compliment now that you've never had, and that was you were right and I was wrong. Which is why I haven't called for so long. I didn't want to get my third strike. You may remember I was not excited about DQ, and now I think he's the best coach we could have had in the whole league for our team. The second strike was I was more of a Drake guy leading into the draft, and now Jaden has completely won me over, even though I'm happy to see Drake is going to be successful. So I'm loving Jaden so much, and he is so Washington. So those are the first things. Next of all, it's because of you that I got seasons, club tickets, seasons. We know this. We spoke about it earlier in the year.
Yes, we did.
And so that's a very good reason right there. And finally, I was in Paris for the Olympics, and I was there for Leon Marchand's biggest race, and he was the most decorated athlete in the Olympics because I used to be on the U.S. team, okay? And I wanted to have a beer with you, and I had no idea you were there, so I blame you on that. We could have had a beer in France. Those are my reasons.
Un bière en France. Hold on, Billy, did you just bury the lead? You're an Olympic swimmer?
No, I was a national swimmer. I didn't make the Olympics.
Okay, but still, that's pretty darn good. Billy, I think you have not only, I'm going to go ahead and declare, Billy, an open-mindedness, a willingness to take on new information, some discipline in calling the show, was a national swimmer. Billy, I think you have vaulted yourself to the top of the list, and thus, as we sit here with 4 minutes until 5 o'clock, which means we need to stop taking calls because Trey Wingo's coming on. Billy, you're in the league.
Oh, my gosh, I'm a winner.
Billy, you're in the league. All right, Billy, I got to put you on hold. Don't hang up. Anthony's going to get your information so that we can send you an email with the league invite. If you are on hold now, we do not have time to take any more calls now, but we are opening the phone lines again at 5:30. 5:30, your next 3 chances to get into the league at 301-230-0980. Anthony and I will also suss out by then who of that first batch, if we're giving away a full 3 spots, do we go just 2? Because we have our emailer who took one of the 9 remaining non-celebrity, if you will, spots. God, celebrity is a loose term. So we'll suss all that out by 5:30. Next, though, Trey Wingo. Hour number 2 of the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. Always live as well on the free Odyssey app. And yes, if you'd like to see our faces, we're on YouTube at the Team 980. Right now, just after 5 o'clock, you know what we do. Day's top story. Of course, NFL season right around the corner. It's time for Not My Beat.
Today's top story from the perspective of someone who's there.
You are looking live.
This just in.
Not My Beat.
Today, it's our pleasure to welcome back a longtime friend of, I would say, the show and shows that I've done. I've known him since I was an intern at ESPN when he was there, and he's done a whole bunch of cool stuff since he's left, including a brand new show on the DraftKings network that will start next, or I guess Thursdays and Mondays at 6 p.m. It is Trey Wingo. Trey, how are you, sir?
I'm alive, and then I'm dead. I'm alive again, Craig. How are we?
I am good. I'm feeling more alive than dead today. And, you know, sometimes as you get to this part of the year, that's all you can really hope for.
Exactly. You just want to make it to the start of the football season and then hang on for the ride, brother.
Yes, and what a ride it will be this year. We will do some hot and cold in the NFC East with Trey coming up in a second. But, Trey, tell me about the new gig. Tell me about the DraftKings show you guys are going to do starting here with the season starting up.
Yeah, it's great. We'll do a condensed version of it on the season opener Thursday night in Kansas City, a week from tomorrow, and then every Monday and Thursday nights on DraftKings Network, 6 to 7 Eastern. It's called the Pregame Power Up. We're just going to get you set for everything you need to know about primetime football, insights, depth analysis, where you should be looking to place some of your money if you're so inclined, and maybe get you set for fantasy lineups. We'll go live to the stadiums. Have all kinds of thoughts and analysis and insights from betting analysts, plus former NFL players. Guys like Golick and Gojo are going to join us. Ross Tucker, Marshall Newhouse, former longtime NFL lineman who played for both Tom Brady in New England and Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay out of his college days at TCU. He'll be a part of it. So we'll be all set. We'll be running the whole thing through the season all the way up to we'll be in New Orleans for the Super Bowl with a show every day that week. So we're really looking forward to this.
And I will say, last year, looking at the DraftKings set, very, very nice set, Super Bowl Radio Row last year that Gojo and them got to hang out on, which is very nice. We're also big fans of the Golick family here on the Hoffman Show. I just got to ask, Trey, like when you think back to, you know, the work you did in NFL Live and kind of when we knew each other at ESPN back in the day, and now you're not only getting to cover like the gambling part that was always kind of the underbelly of the NFL, but you're now working for DraftKings. Like, do you just laugh and think of how gambling content and even references, it was like Musburger, like, ooh, he's touching the third rail back then versus the way the landscape has changed now?
No, it's so stupid if you look at it historically. Like when we would do stuff for NFL Live, we couldn't do over/under win totals because that was associated with gambling. So we just changed the words. We said more than or less than because the NFL didn't want us to use the phrase over/under. And when we did something like that, we were not allowed to use the team names. We had to say the team in Cincinnati or the team in our nation's capital or the team that represents Massachusetts and parts of New England. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when the NFL barred Tony Romo from holding a fantasy football convention in a hotel in Vegas because there was a casino in the hotel. Well, we just had a Super Bowl in Las Vegas. We've had a draft in Las Vegas, and we have a team in Las Vegas. I'll give the NFL credit because they're really good at two things, Craig. Number one, keeping our attention, and number two, knowing how to make money. And once the Supreme Court changed the rules for where you can bet and what you can do, the NFL said, I see an opportunity, let's get there.
Yes, that is why Roger Goodell is employed and makes all that money, because for all of the other criticisms we might have of the man, he is so good at making them money. Trey Wingo with us here on the Hoffman Show, a host with the DraftKings Network, amongst his other projects. And Trey, when we were texting to see if you could come on today, and always appreciate your time when you do join us, when we were texting and we're talking about some of the teams in the NFC East, you said you were hot on the Commanders. What do you like about what Adam Peters and Dan Quinn have started to build here?
Well, I have to put it in the context of what my expectations are, right? So let me explain it this way. First of all, I love Dan Quinn, and I love the fact that after he got fired from the head coaching job in Atlanta, he went back to his coaching roots and sort of reestablished himself and became, a significant player again with the things he did with that Dallas defense. Remember, Deron Bland set the record for pick sixes in a season last year. He wasn't even supposed to play. He only played because Trevon Diggs got hurt. Well, now Bland is hurt and Diggs is back. So, this is what Dan Quinn does. Every year it seems like there's this team in the NFL that manages to go from worst to first in their division. Just this past year, the Texans, they had 2 wins. They are terrible. Oh, my God, they're drafting a rookie quarterback and a first-year head coach. What the hell are they going to do? 10-7 and win a playoff game is what they did. So you see this happen almost every year. So in the context of the Commanders, I'm like, okay, is it possible that the Commanders could be a team that might go from worst to first? And I think the answer to that is kind of yes. And here's why I would explain. The Cowboys are out, historically. Nobody has repeated in the NFC East since the Eagles won it 4 years in a row from the late 90s to the early 2000s. We're going on a 20-year run with no team repeating as the NFC East champs. That is by far the longest stretch of any division in football. So historically, the Cowboys are out. Historically, the Cowboys are also out because they can never get their bleep together. Let's just be honest about it, okay? Now, they paid CeeDee Lamb, and that was right. By the way, I will say this. Go look at CeeDee Lamb's numbers. And I don't know why you don't automatically say his name along with Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill when you're talking about the best wide receivers in the game. If it's about production, he's as good or better than either one of them. He had the second most receiving yards, second most receiving touchdowns, the most catches. I think he had the most 100-yard games. He had the most first-half yards. He was number 1 in yards after catch. I mean, if you go down the things you want your number 1 wide receiver to be, CeeDee Lamb checks all of those boxes. So
Trey, I'll interject quick here to say I heard a stat today. I was listening to my pal Robert Mays on the Athletic Football Show in their NFC East preview, and I think it was weeks 7 through 18 last year. If you take the numbers from that stretch and then project them over a full schedule, Lamb would have had over 200 targets last year. That is how featured he was.
Yeah, he was 181 targets, also number 1 in the NFL last season. So this, don't put him out of don't just say Justin Jefferson and Tyreek Hill or Jamar Chase without saying CeeDee Lamb. That's how good he is. So you may not like it, but that's your opinion. I'm going on facts and data. Okay. So, but by the reason I bring this up, the Cowboys I think are out. Now the Eagles, right? Oh, the Eagles are loaded. Howie Roseman had another great draft. Well, they're still the team that somehow fumbled their way down the stretch, losing 6 of their last 7 games to lose the division to Dallas, and then got bounced summarily in the first round of the postseason. And then this offseason, when Jalen Hurts was asked about, what's your relationship with Nick Sirianni? Is everything okay? His response was, remember, that's not true. It's why are we talking about this? It's old news. As in, bleep, everybody knows this. No lie. So let's just move on. So there's an issue there. Okay, let's just be honest. You go back to the Super Bowl a couple of years ago against the Chiefs when they were waiting to decide whether Dallas got it in the first half and caught that pass for a first down. Sirianni was pointing his arm saying first down, and Jalen Hurts, the young quarterback, had to tell his head coach, dude, calm down, grow up, okay? So there's something there. Let's not pretend like there's nothing there. So that maybe some of the Eagles have to deal with. And the Giants are going to be terrible. I'm sorry. Daniel Jones is not going to magically transform after the contract you gave him. He's still the guy in the preseason game he last played against the Texans. Oh, wait, I'm going to be sacked for a safety? No, instead of that, I'm going to throw a pick 6 because that's a better idea. That's a better option. So everyone can love Malik Neighbors, but if Daniel Jones is pulling the trigger, Malik Neighbors can only be as good as his quarterback, right? Let's just be honest about that. So that leaves us with Washington. I'm a big believer in Dan Quinn, as I said. I love the defense, and I love the players he brought with him. I'm also particularly fond of Jaden Daniels. I remember watching him before he went to LSU and won a Heisman, when he was recruited out of high school to play for my guy Herm Edwards at Arizona State. Kid showed up big time in big games on the road against Michigan State. Big game. He has that vernacular. We saw what he did at LSU. Now his frame is a little slight, so injuries are always an issue. But I think Jaden Daniels can have a C.J. Stroud type season for the Washington Commanders because I like the offensive weapons they have around him.
So I'm curious, talking to Herm over the course of the draft process, did you get a favorite Jaden story out of him?
Well, I mean, we've talked about a million things about Jaden. Nothing particular to that specific thing, but he loves the kid. He absolutely absolutely love the kid. And he said when he realized things were going south at Arizona State, he said, you need to go. Go wherever you need to go. We'll support you 100%. Do what you got to do. We get it. We don't get it. We're never going to block you or stop you and try and get you from not maximizing your worth and your potential. And Herb could not say enough good things about Jaden Daniels.
Yeah, I know they had a great relationship. Obviously, Jaden and AP. We saw Daniels in the Raiders locker room after last season. And then, of course, winds his way to Washington. So we'll see what he can be in year one. Trey Wingo with us here on the Hoffman Show. New show for him, Mondays and Thursdays during the NFL season, 6 o'clock on the DraftKings Network. One thing that is fascinating for me, Trey, big picture this year, Jaden adjacent, is how Washington is handling Jaden and kind of their team building with this longer term vision around Daniels, and where Chicago, the obviously one pick higher than them in the draft, is like, we are all in right now. They kind of started the rebuild a couple years ago. They've got some pieces in place, and they are spending bigly to try to compete this year. What do you make of those two strategies and the chances that either one or both is the right strategy for each individual quarterback?
Well, it's interesting, right? Because we've seen this happen a few times over the last few years with quarterbacks sit. Patrick Mahomes sat his rookie year. His only start was the last game of the regular season after Alex Smith and the Chiefs had already locked up the division title, a division they've won 8 straight years now, which even predates Patrick's run. And then we've seen guys like C.J. Stroud come in right away and be really successful. And then we've seen Bryce Young come in right away and really, really struggle. So I think you have to get a feel for the guy. And Patrick, he knew when he had Alex there. When people forget one thing about Patrick Mahomes, he took 0 endorsement money his rookie year. He turned down every single endorsement deal because he's like, I'm not the starter. I shouldn't be getting endorsement deals. The people that are playing, the people that are leading the team, they should be getting the endorsement deals. So they had a really good feel that Mahomes would not be one of those guys who would bitch about it and be upset about it if he isn't starting right away because he's seeing the bigger picture. And I think you might be seeing some of that same sort of situation with Jaden. He understands this is a long play for him, and I think he's fine and willing to do whatever he believes is necessary for his best long-term development.
And then with Caleb, they're taking it even a step further where it's not just like, hey, you're the starter, but like we kind of expect to win right away. Do you think that it's not even can he handle the pressure? I think Caleb's shown like he kind of invites pressure. And I don't say that as a criticism. Like he's a big personality and can handle such things. But have they given him enough, whether it's, the Keenan Allen and DJ Moore signings, re-signing in DJ's case, and just making him feel comfortable by giving him a boatload of money. And then what they've done defensively, that strategy of a more aggressive, short-term, we're ready to win now play could also potentially work for Chicago.
I think it could. And I say this not with I understand how this is going to sound. I'm not sure there's a quarterback heading into his rookie year, taken number 1 overall in the draft, that has ever walked into a better situation than Caleb Williams is walking into. Okay? You just mentioned DJ Moore. They have tight end Cole Kmet. They have DeAndre Swift. They have a revamped offensive line. They draft Rome Odunze, and they trade for Keenan Allen. Like, literally a week before that trade happened, we had Justin Herbert on our Chasing It podcast with myself and Chase Daniel, and he could not have been more effusive in his praise of Keenan Allen and how he makes him such a better quarterback and all that kind of stuff. And then a week later, he's gone to the Bears. So I can't. Can you think of a quarterback taken number 1 overall that walked into a situation with better weapons? And oh, by the way, let's add this in as well. The Bears defense is a top 10 defense. When Justin Fields was taken in the first round by the Bears, their 2 top weapons were Darnell Mooney and Velus Jones. And the Bears had, wait for it, statistically, the worst defense in the history of that franchise. That franchise goes back to the beginning of the NFL. Like, if Justin Fields had walked into the situation that Caleb Williams is walking into, Justin Fields is still the quarterback for the Bears, and Caleb Williams will be drafted somewhere else.
I think you're 100% right that no quarterback has ever had it better than Caleb, because I don't think there has been, certainly not in modern history, but probably in NFL history, a quarterback that was drafted, quote unquote, naturally number 1 overall by a team that was better than the Bears because they had the Carolina pick from the year before. So they didn't have to give up any assets to trade for the number 1 pick in the draft that they were actually picking first. And they were actually not the worst team. And so that combination, combined with, being willing to give up the second for Montez Sweat and what he did for their defense last year after he got flipped out of here, like all that stuff, I think you're 100% right. Trey, who is the team for you that you are most excited to watch this year that's maybe not the obvious ones? Like, of course, it's really fun to watch Pat Mahomes and the Chiefs play football. Teams like the Ravens adding Derrick Henry, like the teams that we know about that are going to be at the top of their divisions. Is there someone that's a little bit more of a sleeper that you're really fond of, or perhaps just really fond of their over number when you're looking at the totals?
Wow, I thought I got you with the Commanders there, but you're asking me for another one. Okay, I tell you, let's do this the other way, right? I'm not so sure everything's going to be okay for the Cincinnati Bengals.
I like that.
Jamar Chase showed up today 13 minutes late to practice at street clothes. And 2 days ago, Zach Taylor, whom I love, by the way, and think has done a great job in changing the brand of the Cincinnati Bengals and the culture there, has gone from, he's ready day one. It's like, well, I'd be ready for game one. Well, it's day to day. Okay? They never got the T. Higgins thing right this offseason. And the thing was, well, if you're not going to pay T, clearly you're paying Jamar. Then Mike Brown, the owner, and the oldest of old school owners, was like, once the season has started, there's no time for negotiations. So that's got to rustle Jamar Chase a little bit when you see the contract that CD just got, $100 million guaranteed, $38 million signing bonus, okay? So we got to factor that all in. Then you have this really weird offseason for Joe Burrow, who, is out, as a fashion model at a bunch of these places and comes back looking like early 2000s Eminem with the platinum blonde hair. I talked to somebody in Cincinnati that I trust a lot, and his reaction to me was, the vibe isn't good. The vibe isn't right. And, you can say, oh, well, that's crap, and who cares when you play? It does matter, okay? Let's take Stephon Diggs, right? I think we can all agree that Stephon Diggs is a game-breaking wide receiver. There's no doubt about that. But why had 2 teams passed on him in his prime? Why was Minnesota ready to move on from him? And why was Buffalo ready to move on from him? Something wasn't right. It just wasn't working with Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. Something's not right in Cincinnati. And everyone's looking at them and saying, well, they were 9-8 last year, even with Joe Burrow suffering all those injuries. They still had a winning record, and they'll be good, and they'll be back. Don't be so sure. It's not that easy. I think the AFC North is loaded this year, absolutely loaded. And, what players notice when you don't take care of your best players. They notice. So what goes on in their minds in the locker room is, well, if they're messing with him, what are they going to do with me? And that happens faster than you can imagine a lot of times in locker rooms. So it's going to be very interesting, especially if the Bengals get off to a slow start like they did last year and the year before. It'll be very interesting to see how this all sort of snowballs one way or the other.
That's a great point, and I'm very glad that cheap ownership is not something we have to deal with in Washington anymore, something that they famously have to deal with in Cincinnati, and they kind of got around the last couple of years because all their best players were on rookie contracts. Last thing for you real quick on the way out, Trey, since you brought up the vibes. Can San Francisco overcome their bad vibes / get Trent back in camp and figure out this Ayuk thing enough to be right where we expect them based off of what they've been, which is in the NFC Championship game and competing to be back in a Super Bowl?
Craig, I think that's also a really good point because to me, if you just told me to rank rosters 1 through 53, who has the best roster in football, I think San Francisco is right up there. They just don't have Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, which is Brock Purdy is more than good enough. We've seen that. He's more than good enough. But to your point, why are we messing with Trent Williams? What's going on with Brandon Ayuk? And how is that going to play out? And the thing nobody's talking about, Christian McCaffrey has a calf strain. He's still not right. They're still not sure if he's ready to go week 1. Remember Joe Burrow suffering a calf strain in training camp last year? Remember how limited he was as a quarterback last year when he tried to play through the early weeks of that calf strain? Well, multiply that by a running back whose entire job is his legs. So there are little things that have me concerned about San Francisco. Remember, they had to cancel joint practices with the Titans this summer because they were too banged up.
Right. Never heard of that before. Never heard of it.
Sometimes that happens, and it can have a really detrimental effect. To your point, they were in Super Bowl 54. They had a setback in the season for Super Bowl 55. Then they were in the NFC Championship game. Then they were in the NFC Championship game the next year, and they lost all their quarterbacks, and they made it back to the Super Bowl last year and had a 10-point lead on the Chiefs. So they've been really consistent, and sometimes playing all those extra games, those injuries can add up, and it's a war of attrition.
No doubt about it, especially the physical style they play. I understand why Trent's like, the money's not guaranteed. I'm not really that interested with the things that you're going to ask me to do. Trey Wingo's got a brand new show, pregame for primetime football on the DraftKings Network, 6 o'clock Mondays and Thursdays this NFL season. Trey, what you do so many different things. I can't possibly list them all, but you can because you do them. Anything else in particular you'd like to point the people to?
Sure. We've got the Alternate Routes podcast with my guy, Kevin Frazier. We take one moment in time and say, what if this had happened, how things would have been different? One we have that we're cooking on right now. What if Dan Snyder didn't buy the then Washington Redskins from Jack Kent Cook? And how would that have changed things? What if Dan Snyder hadn't shown up and become the worst owner in the history of the NFL in recent memory for one of the storied, generational cornerstone franchises of the NFL over the years? We've got that. I do some golf for NBC during the year. I also do some things for the PGA Tour, 3 or 4 events for them. And there's a few things that are on the pike that I can't really talk about now, but they'll be coming up shortly, and I'm excited to be a part of those as well.
Well, we always love having you, so if you want to come back and tell us about them when they come out, you are always invited, my friend. Always great to talk ball with you, and until the next time we talk, enjoy the final days before we catch the ride.
You got it, Craig. Always good to talk to you, pal.
You too. That's Trey Wingo, everybody, with us here on the Hoffman Show on the Team 980. When we get back, and by the way, our football coverage presented by T-Mobile. Switch to T-Mobile, and you can get tons of benefits and still save on every plan versus AT&T and Verizon. Use their savings calculator to find out how at T-Mobile.com/switch. When we get back, he was saying, more spots in the Hoffman Show Fantasy League are on the line. We'll reveal who has made the cut through our first hour, and we take your calls. Why should you be in the league? That is the question. Why should you be in the league? You have to prove that you get the show. You have to have a great show story, a great experience with the show that you can share with us. You cannot just tell us how great you are at fantasy football. You cannot just say flattering things about me, although that is very kind of you, because I think most of you were actually telling the truth. Why do you, caller, belong in our fantasy league? 301-230-0980. We get to it next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. You'll hear from Dan Quinn and Adam Peters coming up at 6 o'clock. Big, long press conference today talking about how they built the 53-player roster, why they didn't make any waiver claims, the practice squad choices, all of it. And I'll let you hear a lot of it coming up at 6 o'clock, interspersed with my thoughts on the matter because, well, I host the show, and that's kind of how that goes. Right now, though, we continue to do a mandatory thing if you host a radio show in 2024, Anthony. We try to fill our fantasy football league. We're going to do a show fantasy league, and the rules are both simple and complex in how you get in it. You tell us why you belong. I'm not looking for fantasy football resumes. I am looking for funny stories in connection with the show. Definitely loyal listenership and flattery or a bonus, but that's icing, not cake. We're looking for substance as to why you belong in the league, or at the very least, some kind of proof point that you truly understand the show. And we have decided that 3 callers from the first hour are going to be welcomed into the league. Billy from Miami in the league. We told him on the air he had vaulted to the top of our list. He was our last call of the first hour. Billy made it into the league. I can't believe this happened because he used reverse hater psychology, Anthony. But Tion's in the league. Against all odds. Even though he kind of threatened to be the most annoying person that I hate. Tion might get himself banned from the show before the end of the season, but Tion's in the league.
Hey, look, not a lot of people could do what he did, and
it was so hilariously
strategic.
A bad idea that he got himself in the league. And then our guy Dale started off a little rough. By rough, he was just sending me, right? Dale? Dennis, sorry. I hope there wasn't a Dale that just got his hopes up. Dennis, I apologize. I got your name wrong. Dennis started off by being incredibly nice. And I was like, Dennis, this is very nice, but this is not what we're looking for. And then he got a little into his bio, his family history, and by golly, Dennis got himself in the league, Anthony.
And look, we love to see it, man.
So if you combine that with me, you, our guy Tony Squares, and then I believe it was Mitchell. Morgan. God, I'm just butchering names all over the place. Morgan, who got himself in via email. We got some spots filled, but we got 5 more to go, and the phone lines are about half full right now, meaning you can call in at 301-230-0980. I got some Twitter inputs as well, Anthony, that I will read to you momentarily. But let's start off with Terrence. Terrence, you are on the Hoffman Show. If I can find the mouse, there we go. Why should you be in the league?
What's up, Craig? First of all, everybody's on here talking about compliments and listening to the show. We all listen to the show. What are we talking about? We're talking about practice. We should be talking about fantasy football. So the reason why I should be on is to actually play fantasy football. I'll be that person that's filling out the lineup every week. I'll be that person that will draft correctly, won't be submitting crazy trades. Nothing worse when you're playing fantasy football with a bunch of people who are not really playing. After week 4 or 5, they clock out. It's nothing worse when you need that person in week 14 to beat someone else so you can get in the playoffs, or you get a number 1 seed and they playing their quarterback in week 3 that got hurt, 10 weeks ago. And lastly, if I do win, I'm calling in that Tuesday. I'm gonna sing Eye of the Tiger like my broadcast dude. I'm singing that live on the show.
Terrence, see, the last point is the most intriguing. I mean, yes, we want people that will actually keep up with the league, but very explicit instructions, Terrence, that it's not really about your fantasy football prowess. I'm assuming that if you want to play, you're going to play. It's really about the connection to the show. Threatening to sing / promising to sing Eye of the Tiger if you win live on the radio, that very much is in line with the doofiness that is this radio program. So that and the dedication that you were on hold for, I think, 41 minutes, I'm going to say you're on the list. You're very beatable right now. I'll give you one last chance to make some other pitch to help your case here, but I'm going to at the very least have Anthony take down your email. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Sure. As long as I don't run into Anthony anywhere, or Anthony don't attend a game that I don't play, then I should be good. As long as I don't get the Anthony jinx on me, or I don't run into him anywhere, I should be good.
Okay, Terrence, that definitely just helped his cause. Terrence, stay on hold. Anthony's going to collect your information. He gets the show. He's aware of the curse.
Oh, my God. Hey, Terrence, I hope I run into you now.
Oh.
I hope so.
Anthony, if Terrence makes the league and Anthony is playing him like week 3, Anthony's liable to show up at Terrence's house. Legal note, Anthony will not show up at anybody's house because that would be weird and potentially criminal. Okay, let's go to Doug in Richmond. Doug, why do you belong in the fantasy league?
Whew, okay, calm my nerves. All right. So, Craig, first I want to say I'm from Richmond, so I kind of want to give a little bit backstory of how I listen to the show and everything. So one day, I think it was a while back, when we were talking about how Sam Howell got traded and talking about QB history. I don't know if you remember that call, but that was a while back ago. We were talking about quarterbacks. And then back on that day, actually, I was working, and I ran into someone while I was talking to you. And they were like, oh, you a Commanders fan? And I was like, well, yeah, unfortunately, yeah. Just everything going on, how we were picking 2 in the draft and everything. And then this conversation led to somehow getting to know more about that guy. And meanwhile, I was a senior at VCU at the time. I'm still a senior. I'm graduating this semester.
Okay.
And I'm a senior. And this person was actually a guy who was a career person who came in, who works at the Federal Reserve Bank here in Richmond. And so I got to learn more about him. And then he told me about their offering internships. And I was like, oh, I will go ahead and apply to that. And then I got to further down the line, doing some interview stuff, and I actually got the summer job. So in a weird, incorrect way, you guys helped me get a job.
Doug, that's awesome. You are 1,000% on the list. This is the kind of way that you get yourself in the league. Anthony, I want you to write Doug's name at the top of the page. Doug, I can't guarantee you're in the league, but I damn near can guarantee you're going to be in the league. Thank you for sharing that story. That is awesome. Congratulations on your job. And I do think that we'll see you in the draft room. That is good stuff from Doug and Richmond, Anthony. That is what we're looking for.
Oh, my God. You're fired up, man.
That's. Should I get sentimental for a moment?
Yes.
That's what this is about. Like this the whole point of sports in this large-ass form that we do it in is that it's a community thing, right? Sports at its best, especially professional sports, especially professional football in a market like the DMV, brings people together. There was a long-running joke, and maybe this is still true, that the only thing that brings DC together, Democrats and Republicans and people of all persuasions and kinds and any way you can subdivide human beings. In D.C., the one thing that brought them together was the burgundy and gold. And then Dan Snyder bought the team, and that went down the toilet because I guess the only thing that brought people together was hating Dan Snyder. So in a way, I guess it was still accurate. And I'm sincerely hoping that in this new era of Washington football, whether they get called the Commanders in the long term or not, that we get back to that. But having this silly little radio show where, yes, we talk about football and we do it somewhat seriously, and then we don't take ourselves too seriously with it, and to have moments like that remind us why we do all this in the first place, and then to have that kind of moment shared on the show, that's what it's all about. Shout out to Doug in Richmond. There is basically a 1,000% chance, a.k.a. it's guaranteed. Screw it. Anthony, I'm saying it right now. Doug's in the freaking league. That's what we're talking about. Doug, you're in the league. All right, let's get one more submission here. We have 1 to 2 more spots then remaining this hour. Let's go to Pete. Pete, why do you belong in the league?
Well, I'm pretty sure I can top all these guys, including the last one.
Okay, he got a job, so let's see what you got, Pete.
Well, if you don't like all this, then I don't know.
Maybe you don't get the show as well as you think. All right, hit me. Let's go.
All right. Well, here you go. Huge Washington football fan for 40 years. That's just the easy thing off the top.
Sure.
My connection to the show in a couple different ways. I interned for the George Michael Sports Machine.
Okay.
I was the sports guy. I was a sports guy on the news at NBC in Guam. Fox in Rochester, Minnesota, and NBC in Flint, Michigan.
Okay.
I'm also proud of the tribe like you. I'm Jewish.
Okay, that doesn't really move the needle that much for me, but sure.
All right, fine. I also had a huge couch problem like you. We ordered a couch. The measurements were sweet. They delivered it. It wouldn't fit in the door. We returned it. And unlike you, it sucked and we didn't get another couch. Also, a connection for 106.7 The Fan and 980. About 20 years ago, I lent EB a travel golf bag, and
he didn't return it.
Get it back to me.
Yeah, no,
and he never did.
He definitely didn't.
That's what I got.
Pete, it's good stuff. Your connections. George Michael Sports Machine is a cool fun fact, but they are much more to like sports media than they are specific to the show. I would say if the Junkies are doing a league,
that's what the other ones are specific to the show. The
couch is specific. I will say, all right, Pete, I'm going to put you on the list. I don't know. That definitely doesn't beat Doug getting the job. I would say if the Junkies do a fantasy league, you should definitely call them and be like, EB, you owe me a golf bag, but you can just give me, at this point, 20 years later, you can give me a fantasy football league spot. So we're going to put Pete on hold, Anthony. You can get his info, and Pete is on the chopping block potentially, but as of now, I guess he's got a spot. But we'll see if some of the folks that are on hold or anybody that's about to call in is going to pass him. I'm monitoring Twitter as well, so I might take a Twitter submission here. I got a couple that I like. But 301-230-0980, make your case. Why do you belong in the Hoffman Show Fantasy League? Then we're back to Adam Peters and Dan Quinn's press conference today where they discuss the 53-player roster at 6 o'clock. the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. All right, why do you belong in the Hoffman Show Fantasy League? That is the question we are asking you at 301-230-0980. Had lots of passion, please. Lots of good stories, but we still got some spots available. We have up to 2 more available this hour. Definitely one more, and then we have some more spots available at 6:30 at 301-230-0980. All right, let's get back to the phones. Let's go to Anthony. Is this Karan that we have?
Yes, sir.
Karan, you're on the Hoffman Show. Why do you belong in the league?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call, Craig. I'm on the Hoffman Show. My connection is through, I found you all through Take Command. Love the podcast you do with Logan. And I am actually, I think the thing that makes me unique is I am actually the captain of the Commanders Hype Squad on the field at every game. And I got some sideline stories for you. First off, I didn't trust the leadership. I didn't know the leadership about Jaden Daniels until this Sunday at the game. But man, do you see it. When you're looking at the game from the sideline, all the guys who know they're on the roster wearing gray shirts and all of that. There's one guy in that white block where you see the coaches all the time, and man, that was Jaden Daniels, and that hyped me up. So I'm so excited to see that. The other thing is you have Michael Monday, Tishwood Tuesday. You had Wingo on here earlier. What about some Wingo Wednesdays?
Now Karan's trying to program the show, and he's actually doing a pretty good job. It's not a bad idea. We did commit to just having all of our regular guests being based off alliteration. Honestly, that's good enough to get you on the list, Karan. So I'm going to put you on hold. Anthony's going to take your information. We might have had the instructions are prove that you get the show. He gets the show. All right, let's go to Ron. Ron, why do you belong in the Hoffman Show Fantasy League?
Hey, what's up, Craig? I believe I belong because the number one reason is that I hate the Cowboys. That should unify us all. That should get me in. I hate them so much that when they played, that I saw Donovan McNabb beat them, and I became an Eagles fan as a kid, bro. As a kid. Now lately, I dropped the Eagles when they were good, and I became a Commanders fan because I wanted to root for home. But that's why I believe I belong, because I hate the Stars. And yeah, that's about it.
Ron, that's I love your passion. I love your energy.
For sure. That's another reason why I want to get in, man. I want to provide some competition for you. You say 7-time champ? That's ridiculous.
I mean, I didn't say I said I don't care whether you're a 7-time champion because it's not really about the football. Ron, I'm sorry.
Not for me. You said you won your league, right?
Oh no, I was just making. I was that. No, I didn't. I didn't say that. All right, Ron. You're welcome to call back and hate on the Cowboys and talk ball anytime on the show. I don't think that's going to be enough to be in the league, though. Let's go to Pat. Pat, thanks for calling. You're on the show. Why do you belong in the league?
I belong in the league because I just turned off Pink Pony Club for my 3-year-old daughter so that we could listen to the show and get some updates on the team after that last game because I want to see everything else. But been listening to y'all for a long time, and I don't know. That's pretty much all I got. Although I'm about to turn it back on because that is a banger.
Yeah, no, that Pink Pony Club is kind of a banger. Pat, I appreciate your passion and your choices. We have a couple of parenting submissions. Tell you what, Anthony, get Pat's info. We might have a spot for Pat specific to Chapel Run Pink Pony Club. Anthony, you just tell me there's breaking news though that we might have to be serious here for a moment. So I'm going to hit I don't know what the breaking news is, so Anthony's about to tell me, and either I'm about to get really mad at Anthony because this isn't news that's worth interrupting the show for, or we're going to have breaking news to talk about.
Breaking news. Oh, snap, news is broken, breaking news.
I feel as though I'm in a lose-lose situation here.
What's the news, Anthony?
So the news is the Commanders have signed a wide receiver.
Okay.
His name is Noah Brown.
Okay, that's legit breaking news.
Okay, all right.
Hey! Anthony's news judgment gets him in the league for today. I'm not going to throw Anthony out of the show league because he interrupted. Okay, that's legit news. I wish it would have happened earlier in the day so that Adam Peters and Dan Quinn could have been asked about it. But we'll take some Noah Brown breaking news. So, is there anything more specific in terms of did they do anything else at the wide receiver position yet? Again, this is the really fun job of live radio is you get to do these things in real time, and sometimes you say something, and then you realize that you're wrong. So Noah Brown is signing with the Commanders, according to Jeremy Fowler. Will join the active roster. They'd have a roster spot because they traded John Ridgeway today. So they don't have to necessarily cut Byron Pringle or Jameson Crowder or anybody else from that wide receiver room. They can just operate with 7 as of right now. Brown was definitely one of the more surprise cuts. He obviously is someone who's familiar to Dan Quinn as he was in Dallas for a number of years, although he's released from Houston. He's got 1,500 career yards receiving, 28 years old, out of Mount Olive, New Jersey. Bigger body, 6'2", got some speed, and is still, like, he's not a young player. He's 28, was 7th round pick by Dallas all the way back in 2017. But he is a guy that has a good amount of experience and has played in a lot of games. And that is just not something that they have in their wide receiver room. Guy who played, 16 games for Dallas in 2022, 13 in 2021, 16 in 2020. So he's been relatively reliable. Did just play 10 last year, had 33 catches on 55 targets for the Texans. He's been over 500 yards the last 2 years. Last year averaged 17 yards a catch. So you talk about that vertical speed. Also, if my math is correct, he would have been at Ohio State with Terry McLaurin because he was there until 2017, with Terry being drafted in 2019 as, I believe, a fifth-year senior. They would have been together for a couple of years at Ohio State. So, yes, legitimate breaking news. The Commanders have added to their receiving core. We'll see if there's any more moves to come over the next couple of days. But the Commanders do get a bigger, faster receiver than, not necessarily faster, but a bigger-bodied, still with speed receiver than they've been kind of looking for. It probably is part of the reason why they don't bring back Martavius Bryant as even a practice squad option. And then we'll see how he slots in as the regular season goes, and he learns the offense here over the next couple, really week and a half, but certainly a couple of weeks until he's going to be operating at full capacity. More reaction on that. Plus, we will get into the Commanders' press conference today where Adam Peters and Dan Quinn addressed the press on all things 53-man roster, etc. So we will get to that coming up next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, and we're always live as well on the free Odyssey app. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We stream live on YouTube as well if you like at the Team 980. So you drive home, you get home, you want to keep watching or listening to the show, you can use the Odyssey app to listen. You can go, whether it's on your tablet, throw up the iPad while you're making dinner, or you go on your smart TV, the YouTube app, and watch the show at the Team 980. 6 o'clock is when we get you caught up on the biggest Commanders headlines of the day. And, would you look at the time? It's 6 o'clock.
The 6 biggest Commanders storylines.
It is caught!
Delivered at 6 o'clock sharp. It's the Pick 6 at 6.
We set out to find a leader, someone who could take this franchise to the next level and build an elite team that consistently competes for championships.
Let's start with
number 1.
Yeah, that's right. Number 1, the breaking news. Yeah, we love when the top headline is the thing that just happened. The Commanders have signed wide receiver Noah Brown. They will not have to make a cut, although they certainly could if they want to sign someone else, and now they have 7 wide receivers on the roster. But 6'2", 225, has over 1,000 yards receiving the last 2 years combined, 550 or so per year, with the Texans and the Cowboys, now taking his talents out of the Lone Star State here to D.C. Of course, DQ, familiar with him from his time in Dallas, a guy that's been really productive, got some really good long speed. So you get kind of that big, fast receiver that can play in this offense and get vertical and do the things that Cliff Kingsbury wants. Get him out in space, let him run a little bit. He did some of that last year. Big, explosive play type player, averaged 17.2 yards per catch last year for the Houston Texans. Found the end zone a couple of times on the receiving end of C.J. Stroud passes as well. This was definitely the type of player that they are looking for. He is now the biggest player in that receiving room. The second biggest is Luke McCaffrey, who's probably bigger than you think, because you think of Christian as being Christian's a running back, so he's not like he's massive in terms of height, but Luke's solid 6'2". Of course, their dad, Ed McCaffrey, had decent size as a receiver and is an all-time great in the NFL. Got some Super Bowl rings. But they needed that bigger outside body type. And Bryson Tremaine back on the practice squad, but ultimately that wasn't the guy he didn't do enough to really, push to make this roster by the end as hot as he started. As much as I liked what he did early, as much as Logan liked what he did early, we now know that that just wasn't going to be enough because he didn't make the plays in the games. And eventually that has to matter. How do you show up on actual game day? And so to get this in Noah Brown, guy who's played a lot better, a lot more recently than Martavis Bryant, who's certainly an option coming out of camp. But this is a guy that legitimately can be a rotational piece. I still think De'Ami Brown will be the starter on the outside. De'Ami provides, a smaller body in terms of 6 foot versus 6'2", but great vertical speed, supreme toughness, blocks his face off. And of course, Noah's going to have to learn the playbook. But between him, Olamide Zaccheaus, Luke McCaffrey, Jameson Crowder, Byron Pringle, you got some guys that have played some football, and Luke McCaffrey to supplement Terry McLaurin in that receiver room, make life easier for Jaden Daniels. Is this the long-term receiver room that they want? Absolutely not. I think they would have loved nothing more for Jahan Dotson to take what they were teaching and run with it and prove why he was a first-round pick. It didn't happen. It's a position they're probably going to need to address in the future. But for right now, how do you get better right now for this season? You sign Noah Brown. Good job by Adam Peters. That was not the only move they made today, though. They also traded John Ridgeway. That's why they have the roster spot available. Ridgeway goes to New Orleans along with a 7th-round pick for a 6th-round pick. So, as we told you yesterday, 53-player roster named, but not done. The wheeling and dealing ongoing throughout the NFL.
Number 2.
One thing that didn't happen today, though, that I thought was pretty interesting is they did not do anything on the waiver wire. This was a team that had the 2nd place claim, and I will admit I was wrong on something, and which I'll do whenever I'm wrong, especially on something like this that's just factual. It's not even an opinion. I was under the impression that the NFL worked kind of like your fantasy football roster. When you put a waiver claim in, if you get your guy and you put in 2 claims, well, you get the first guy and then you go down to the bottom of the order. No. In the NFL, the way their waiver claims work is you get the second spot if you're the Washington Commanders on every single player that you're in. So as long as Carolina didn't claim a player, if Washington had, they would have gotten him. That's the easiest way to explain that. And Carolina used that, sure did. They put in 5 waiver claims today. So 5 dudes who made Carolina's roster yesterday, see ya. We've replaced you with better players, including former Commander Tariq Castro-Fields. The Commanders, though, claimed no one, despite having access to basically the entire league that got cut yesterday outside of those 5 players. Now, it's worth mentioning, players like Noah Brown did not go through the waiver process because it's only for players that have a very limited amount of NFL experience. But they did not choose to do that. Adam Peters today explaining why. And actually, Anthony, I've now realized that I've messed myself up on the audio front, so thank you.
You know, what I think that's reflective of, John, is more, one, I want to thank our pro staff, our pro scouting staff. They scoured preseason tape for hours and hours and hours and really got together and gave us a lot of really good candidates to bring in and to bring up, and made tapes, had our coaches watch them and all that. But in the end, I think it really speaks to the guys we have in this building, and looking through the waiver wire and being really happy with the guys that we have. And we thought, you know, you compare them to the guys that you have and the guys that are out there, and we thought, you know, the guys that we have in the building we're really happy with. So at this point, we didn't make any waiver claims, and we had the number 2 waiver claim. We still have the number 2 waiver claim, and we'll have that for the first 3 weeks at least, and hopefully no longer than that. And we'll keep doing that until we're always going to do what's best for the team and how to make our team better. So we didn't see that in this round, but it could be today, it could be tomorrow, it could be weeks from now. So
that's the simple explanation. Like, very clearly, unlike, say, the Carolina Panthers, who kept a bunch of guys, they were like, yeah, we could probably still upgrade. Bang, 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 bang. 5 players gone. Adam Peters looked around and scoured the waiver wire and didn't think that what they could get was better than what they had. And that's a credit to him for scouting well. And something he said later in the press conference is, realistically, you cannot get that much better this time of year. You're doing a lot of tweaking. You get better in March and April. And they did a good enough job, considering the extraordinary dearth of talent that they inherited. They did a good enough job in March and April that they didn't have to undo a bunch of mistakes here in August. They did have to undo some other mistakes, though.
Number 3.
5 of the 7 players drafted last year are no longer here. That is tough. Of course, they were drafted by a previous regime. There's no ties. But I liked what Adam Peters had to say about this, even if it's a reality that I'm sure he would rather not have to deal with.
Yeah, I think, you know, in regards to the draft picks from last year, and I think DQ hit it on the other day, Mitch, you know, these guys were all Commanders, and they're all ours, you know. So, and we're thrilled to bring a bunch of them back on the practice squad, and you know how it goes. A lot of them are going to be playing for us this year, and so a lot of those guys embody what we're looking for. We just had, in our eyes, some other guys ahead of them, but that doesn't mean that, you know, they're not going to keep getting better and become really good Commanders for us. But you're always, you know, we're trying to win, and it goes back to his initial press conference. We're recalibrating, so we're not, you know, we're trying to build for the long term and win championships, you know, year in and year out, but we're also trying to win right now.
I mean, simple as that. Like, we inherited him, we coached him up, and they got beat out by better players. And it does make things challenging years from now as these contracts expire. Like, you know, even if you hit on most players in a draft class in the immediacy, like, they typically will get beat out by someone later. I mean, like, Derek Forrest wasn't a miss, but he's now been beat out by better players as his career advances, and he's battled some injuries, and other guys have been brought in, scheme changes, the whole deal. That's just the reality of the situation. But I think that for Adam, like, you take these UDFAs that they hit on, and Colson Yankoff and Tyler Owens, like, okay, well, that's even a better contractual situation than what you have last year. But it is a hole you have to dig out of. You just don't have the young talent that you'd like to support and build your roster. But I don't think I said this yesterday, and I'll continue to say this because I presume as I do more interviews with radio shows around the country, I was on in Buffalo today and on other places, and you know, you get asked about this. It's like, man, did they just hate everybody that Ron Rivera drafted? And it's like, they don't hate them because Ron Rivera drafted them. It's not like they look at them and be like, soft, sucks, Rivera tag. That's not how that works. They got in, they evaluated, they saw what they saw, and they said, this guy's better. And they let their guys go. Anthony, you know what I almost just fell into there? I don't know if you could tell in the cadence of my voice, but I accidentally almost turned Adam Peters into Keith Lee.
Wow.
They got it. Let's try it. Rated on a scale of, is this guy better than that guy? It all comes together.
Full circle moment.
It all comes together. And suddenly, I'm hungry.
Number 4.
All right, number 4 in our pick 6 at 6 here on the Hoffman Show. I just absolutely loved, philosophically, one thing that Adam Peters said today. And he talked about building a team versus collecting talent. And both he and DQ kind of talked about that team identity. And let's start off, Anthony, with what Adam has learned. And you'll hear him say this quote in there about building a roster now that he's doing it from the general manager's chair for the first time.
Yeah, I think you said it. That was the first personnel manual I ever had, John, was Patriots, and it says we're not collecting talent, we're building a team, and that's what we're trying to do here too, and that rings true, 20-some years later. And I think we're going to keep getting better at it. The more we're around each other, the more that our scouting staff knows what they're looking for on the field, offensively and defensively. We're going to get better and better and better, and we're already on our way to that, probably faster than I thought we would be, and really excited for what's to come in the future.
And that's the thing, is like, you have to understand, as Adam said, what the coaches are looking for. Because it's one thing to be like, we would like, 5 cornerbacks. Okay, well, what do you want out of those 5 cornerbacks? Do you want guys that can play inside, outside? Do you want guys that can play both? Do you want long, rangy corners? Because that fits what you're going to ask them to do is cover a lot of space. Do you want short guys, or like, not necessarily short, because you never like, yeah, I want the smaller guy. That's just not how athletics work in any capacity. Not that short guys can't thrive. You short kings out there balling in the NFL, right on. But you're not going to pick, less size over more size. But are you okay with maybe that, because you're not going to ask them to cover vertically as much, or that you're sacrificing size for quickness, and based off of the coverage responsibilities and what you're looking for in your corners, that body type works for your scheme. Like, those relationships start with good communication, and they get better with experience over time. And so the more Adam Peters and his staff watch Dan coach, and Joe Witt coach, and Cliff Kingsbury coach, and the position coaches coach, and the more they see what works and doesn't on tape with the current guys that they have, that is what's going to ultimately unlock the long-term success of this team by creating a great synergy between coaching staff and front office. On Dan Quinn's side of it, he's not only trying to make sure that he has the right pieces in terms of, hey, I need a linebacker that does this and a receiver that does that, but that everybody fits a singular identity.
I think you're on the right track, Ben, that you better have an identity and know what you're going to be about and how you get down, because if you don't, you'll just kind of hodgepodge it around. And so I think you see us play, you've got a glimpse so far of speed, of physicality, of going to finish. And so those are some of the traits that we admire about a lot of the players on this 70-man roster. And the more we do it, the stronger it's going to get. But that is a really important piece of it.
And that's certainly something that they continue to add today. Again, the Noah Brown trade, like size, speed, physicality. And I remember saying this early on in training camp, like, you could kind of almost look out on the field. And if I were to say, take a screenshot or, a photo from the all-22 camera from the end zone, and then be like, all right, I want you to circle all the guys that were previous guys and all the guys that are Dan Quinn, Adam Peters selections. You could do it based off a photo, because the guys, for the most part, there's some exceptions. A guy like Benjamin St. Juste, for sure, with his size and length. But almost to a man, you could have been like, that's an Adam Peters guy. That's a guy that they inherited. Because the caliber of athlete, the size, the speed, the physicality that they prioritize is just different than other teams. That's not saying it's the only way to do it, but it's their way, and their way has been hella effective in multiple different places amongst multiple different organizations, including some of the very best in the sport.
Number 5.
Number 5 in our pick 6 at 6 here on the Hoffman Show. We hear more from Adam Peters on the philosophy of kind of what's next, because we know if this team wanted to, they did just, address the receiver position by, signing Noah Brown, and that was not the case at the time this question was asked earlier this afternoon. But we do know that, say, Brandon Ayuk is still floating out there. Jamar Chase is clearly not psyched in Cincinnati. Showed up to practice today 13 minutes late in street clothes. Yikes. T. Higgins' situation remains unresolved in Cincinnati. Trent Williams not super pumped about what's going on in San Francisco. And so the chances that there is some big bombshell move somewhere in the NFL in the next week seems like more than 0%. So how would Adam Peters approach being a part of said bombshell transaction?
Yeah, I think it really just goes back to one core philosophy is you always want to do what's best for the team, and that's for the short and long term. And so every decision we make is going to be with that in mind, and we're going to talk about it, and there's going to be a lot of different things that come across our desks, and we sit down and we talk about it, and do we think this is the right move for us right now and for the future? And so each time, each individual decision is going to be the same thought process. Is this the best for our team? And that's going to drive our decision making.
Unfortunately
for both of you, in terms of the
unfortunately for us, there is not a lot of detail about what is best for the team in Adam's eyes in that answer. That would be a really good follow-up, and something that if we can get Adam on the show, I would love to ask him. Obviously, every GM's trying to do what's best for the team. It's a clarity of what that means that actually separates the good from the bad GMs. What do you mean? That's the question I want to ask him. And I think for, kind of reading the tea leaves and understanding what Peters wants to do from some of the previous interviews that he's given, they want to build through the draft. That is a stated goal. And we saw them through the draft and, even undrafted free agents, through the rookie pool. That's how they want to build. They supplemented in free agency, even though they had to do it first. They're building some of the foundational, infrastructure in terms of culture and all that kind of stuff with guys like Bobby Wagner and Zach Ertz, and that's really important. But the stars on this team, they want to find through the NFL draft. And so giving up draft capital for someone that's going to come in and then have to fit your system, I just don't think is going to be a part of what they do. I could be wrong on that, but I definitely think that is not how this team is going to operate, which, so when we talk about what's best for the team, if it involves giving up first and second round picks, I'm pretty sure that at this stage of where they are and where they want to be, that Adam Peters is going to go, that's not the best thing for the team.
Number 6.
All right, last but not least, this was the first time that Adam Peters was in the big chair. And that is a lot of responsibility to make the cuts and then ultimately deliver the news. So Adam Peters was asked today what it's like to have that absolutely enormous responsibility.
Yeah, it hits harder. It hits harder, and I would look back, and I'd always look at John Lynch and say, why is he so has so much turmoil and he's not sleeping one night? And you're fine. And then you're sitting in that chair, you realize the totality and the weight of it, and it wears on you, and they're hard, and they're hard. These are guys that you see out here every day, and they're working their tails off, and they're going for it. And so when you're having those conversations, you understand how much it means to them and how much it means to you, and you want to keep every one of them because they're all worthy of being there, but you can only keep 53 and another 17. So I now understand how hard that is and how much it weighs on you, and it's tough. Yeah.
talking about it's one thing, and we're real lucky that that's what we get to do. And given that news is hard, and making those decisions is really hard. But frankly, it's better than being on the receiving end of it, especially if you're on the wrong end of it. It is a brutal, brutal business. It was a brutal day across the NFL yesterday. For a lot of guys, the dream got to continue today, whether they're signed to an active roster like KJ Henry and Tariq Castro-Fields, who were claimed by the Bengals and Panthers respectively, or the 17 players that are now a part of the Commanders practice squad, or the hundreds of others that are practice squad guys around the league. But at the same time, like, there's guys that made the roster yesterday and got cut today. It is a tough, tough business, and Adam Peters felt the brunt of that, and in some ways delivered the brunt of that. That's just the reality of his job today, and he realizes just how big of a deal that is. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. That is our Pick 6. We get you caught up on the latest Commanders storylines daily at 6 p.m. Coming up next, the final spots in our Hoffman Show Fantasy League are filled by you. Why do you belong in the league? 301-230-0980. We have some internet submissions that we will sort through as well. 301-230-0980. Our final half hour still to come here on the Hoffman Show. It's Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980, always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We got wires everywhere. Oh, God. This is okay. All right. We're back. We're good. We're not tripping over stuff. We are trying to fill a fantasy league. We got some online submissions, Anthony. And we have currently, apparently we did this correctly in years past. Just filling out the league in the 4 o'clock hour. 6 o'clock hour. Where are y'all at? Y'all not want to play fantasy football with us? 301-230-0980. Why do you belong in the league? I don't want your fantasy football resume. What I do want is a story that describes that you get the show or that you have a connection to the show. You almost got into a fight because of the show. You got a job because of the show. We have that to get in the league. We have a couple people asking in on the internet, Anthony. So let's sort through these and see if we get any phone calls in the meantime. Because we might be able to sort this out solely based off the internet. Because first of all, how many spots do we have left?
Let me get my sheet of paper out.
Okay.
Also have it typed up in an email.
Oh, that's good.
So right now we have 8 locks.
Okay.
And we have, I think Terrence was a lock, Doug might have been a lock, and Karan also. So let me just tell you who we have so far.
Terrence was definitely not a lock.
Okay.
What was Terrence's call?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'll tell you who we do have.
Okay, give me the definites.
We have Craig.
Uh-huh.
Craig Hoffman. You know that guy?
Yeah, he sucks.
Okay. We have Anthony Haney III.
Mediocre.
We have Tony Squares.
Decent.
We have Morgan.
Uh-huh.
Then we have
Bill. Who emailed the show.
Yep. Then we have Billy in Miami.
Uh-huh.
We have Dennis, the Menace.
Yes.
Tion.
Yep. Tion the hater.
Yep. And then Doug, who was an automatic lock.
Yeah, Doug was great.
Yeah, so we have 8 spots currently. We do have some guys that made the list. I can tell you who.
Yeah, who made the list?
Okay, so we got Marcus. He was the first call.
Okay.
Rob. Then we have Karan.
Yeah.
And Terrence.
Terrence was the cowboy hater, right?
Yep.
Okay, let me read you the online submissions. And also, I've made one celebrity addition to the league.
Okay, let me.
Because George Carmi of the Big Doug and George show sent me a DM. It was like, I'm listening. I would love to be in the league if you have space for me. And I flatly told him, I will air out all our DMs on the radio. I was like, our phone lines are full right now, but I'll keep it in mind. But George and Big Doug have had me on their show a bunch. I love those guys. I think George would make an awesome addition to the live stream of the draft. And so I was like, and then some of our calls, we had great passion in our calls. I don't know that anyone had the kind of stories that I was looking for until we got to Doug, who got a job based off the show, basically.
That was dope.
And I was like, you want to know what? I love Doug and George. They're great. George is in. So George Carmi from the Big Doug and George YouTube show is gonna be in the league. So that leaves us with 3 spots left.
Yep.
The 3 spots online. I got Cobra Commander's been listening basically the entire show. At Rocky Pinnock said, guy beat me to the punch on the dad parenting excuse. I'll sit back and continue commenting from the peanut gallery. And then after Billy in Miami was talking about how he wishes he could have had a beer with me in France because we were apparently there at the same time for the Olympics, Rocky tweeted, Fantasy Football 530, Craig, combien de temps on demande à rejoindre la Ligue en français? S'il vous plaît, envoyez-moi une invitation. Which I presume, despite my very convincing reading of that in what sounded like pretty decent French, Anthony.
You were also reading very fast.
I'm presuming that means, can I join the league because I'm asking in French? And you want to know what? I'm kind of convinced by that.
And what was his name?
It's at Rocky Pinnock. Cobra Commander's the name. Let me just double check. My shiny light just came back on. That was blinding. Let's go to translate. Oh, there it goes again. Translate.google.com. How many listeners have requested to join the league in French? Please send me an invite. That's a good bit.
That is good.
And you know what, Anthony? We
I think he's
reward good bits. So Cobra Commander, who's hopefully still listening, but also hopefully is not still listening, because that would be that'd be a lot of time in one day to listen to the show, and we're concerned for your health. He's in.
Who won the league last year?
That's a great question. I don't remember.
So you can go on. Well, first of all, you have to activate the league, and then
I do. Well, we have to create a new one because we're not going to redo last year's league. That's one of the things that we got to do every year. So Rocky's in, which leaves 2 spots remaining.
Oh, so his name is Cobra Commander's Rocky.
Yes, same person.
Okay, cool.
You know, you can put like a name and then you have your actual @.
Yep.
Yeah. He's Cobra Commander and then @Rocky Pinnock. We then have Dirty Reds, who tweeted me early on in the show. He was the guy with the twin girls. And he did send me a beautiful picture of his family out at Northwest Field in front of the Washington football logo.
He's there already?
Well, he saw. I guess they had like some season ticket holder event stuff. Anthony, you can see this photo, right?
Yeah.
Look at that beautiful family.
That is nice.
How can I tell that man no?
And he has twin daughters?
Look at the twins right there.
Yep.
Double girl dad. Not that we're like into the super, like sometimes people use girl dad in a really weird way. But dad of twin girls, you got little ones. You're looking for something to bring you joy, and you can't call into the show to make your pitch because you're being a good dad. I'm in. Dirty Reds, you're in.
Dirty
So
Red.
that leaves 1 spot remaining, Anthony.
Uh-oh.
George did say he thinks Doug would be in. So we could just go with Big Doug. We've got a couple of other, let's see, we had one more online submission. Our guy Ford, who calls us sometimes from down in Southwest Florida. He was a season ticket holder for a long time for the Commanders. And he listens to the show daily. So I really, Ford, if you're out there listening, I really appreciate how much you listen to the show, how much you interact with the YouTube comments and all that kind of stuff. But we already have Billy in Miami, who also brings a Florida. We can't have 2. Can we have 2 Florida men in the league? That sounds dangerous.
I mean, if we have Big Doug, then we'd have 2 Dougs.
Yeah, but 2 Dougs is different than a Florida man.
You might be onto something.
Florida man, I mean, can't be having any alligators in the league.
Yeah.
What do you say, Anthony? Do we take a commercial break to mull it over? Come back with a final ruling? Perhaps if there's one, the next person that calls will also have a chance to get in the league. So we're either going to let our guy Ford in. We might go celebrity and go Big Doug, or someone's going to make a last second plea, which could fail spectacularly, but could get you in the league. That's how we wrap up the show next. It's the Hoffman Show. We're on the Team 980. We are always live as well on the free Odyssey app. We have made a final decision on the Fantasy League. Ford in Florida, you're in the league. Made a frequent listener. We feel Ford's presence throughout the year. Brings geographic diversity, 17 years of season ticket holder experience, from 77 to 94, Anthony. 77 to 94. And demographic diversity, 66 years old. So we got someone who's in the league because they have 2-year-old twins, and we got someone who's 66 years old. All in the same league. I think the Twins should be in the league personally. All due respect to Pops. That'd be fun.
You say his name was Rudy?
No, Ford. Where'd you get Rudy from?
I was just asking myself the same.
I mean, I messed up a lot of names earlier, but mine were like Mitch and Morgan.
Well, yeah. I don't know where
you messed up Ford and Rudy.
Rudy. Great movie, by the way. Yeah, I don't know how I got there.
Okay, me neither. That should be fairly obvious. All right, so we got our league. Here's what we're gonna do with that information. We are going to live stream the draft next Wednesday. I am not sure at this time what time that draft will be. We might do it at 8 o'clock at night. We might do it. My hope is that we do it in the middle of the day because I don't want to be doing content creation until 8 o'clock at night. But everyone who made the league, you'll get an email from me soon. And congratulations. And if you didn't make the league next year, and we're probably going to go back to doing it for an hour straight in the 4 o'clock hour next year, Anthony, because the 6 o'clock hour doesn't apparently want to be in the league.
Or we can maybe do the first two.
Or, we could split it between 4 and 5.
And I'm not going to lie, 6 o'clock is usually a good time. We did the pick 6:30, I don't know.
Yeah, well, people are listening to the show not to see who gets in the fantasy league for
that too.
The latest on from Command Land. And, well, we got to give the people what they want while also mixing in the fun of it all. We're brought to you by Floor & Decor. Unbeatable prices, unmatched in-stock selection. Floor & Decor has more styles of laminate, vinyl, tile, wood, and stone for anyone looking for the right look at the right price. Your next beautiful space is at Floor Decor. What was your favorite part of the show today, Anthony? Yep, you over there. I know. Sorry, I caught you while you were counting. You were counting how long until we got to stop talking.
Well, I was counting that and then trying to click off this Floor & Decor commercial spot. You said my favorite part of the show?
Yeah.
Favorite part of the
thing
show?
we do every day at this time.
Yeah. A lot happened today. I'm not gonna lie. I'm really excited for the Noah Brown signing. Once he gets healthy, of course, because I think he's still dealing with his shoulder. But yeah, I'm excited for what he can, be for Jaden Daniels and also just bring to the team in general.
Yeah, I feel like people are out. I don't want to end the show being a wet blanket, being cold water. People are a little too excited about Noah Brown. Noah Brown's a good football player.
He's a solid guy.
He's a good football player. I'm excited for Noah Brown too, but like some people are acting like this dude's a freaking like all pro, and I'm like, okay, like let's relax.
Calm your horses.
Let's relax a little bit. But they signed Noah Brown about an hour ago. And he will be a big part of this offense once he gets healthy and gets acclimated. But it always is really hard for guys to come in. Something we'll talk about probably on Take Command tomorrow. We're recording in the morning, and we'll get that out to you ASAP, so make sure you subscribe to Take Command. Because Logan did this in Chicago. Logan got cut from here in 2015, which is kind of a funny story now between the two of us because I started covering the team in 2015, and it didn't really start in earnest till the very end of training camp, which is exactly when Logan got cut. But Logan got cut in Chicago or in here and then went and signed in Chicago. And like, they were like, hey dude, be ready to play week 1. And so you have to learn the playbook fast. And it is hard because all these dudes have gone through, hey, day 1 install in the spring, day 2, day 3, all the way through your install process. You go through it, you practice it in the spring. Okay, let's do it again in training camp. Day 1 install all over again. Now you're practicing that stuff every day as you continue to add on. You've got reps with your quarterback in Noah Brown's case. Like, you understand. You've seen everyone else get coached. You've been in meetings. He doesn't have any of that. Any of that.
I think that's Ford.
You can get his email if you want to, but we don't have time to take a call on the air. Because we have to get to one of the dumbest things ever said on this radio station.
Real things.
We're not going to be sucked this year.
Real people.
5-11, not very good.
Said into real microphones.
The culture is actually damn good.
So today, man, Matt Essig comes storming into my production studio going, you are not going to believe what Linnell just said. And I was like, you're probably right. And it was somehow way worse than I thought.
Hey, I had chicken and rice last night. I made myself chicken and rice.
It's from my favorite place. It's a Albanian pizza joint, and Albanian/Greek, and they make them, and it's dirt cheap too, and it's actually very good.
When you say Albanian, are you talking about albino people?
No,
you
no,
idiots.
Linnell, you're making a fool out of yourself. Albanians, they're a very proud group of people. One of my best friends is Albanian. Come on.
Jeez, Linnell, what planet are you from?
First of all, I'm a proud graduate of Montgomery County Public Schools, so I use my context. When someone says Albanian, an Iranian is what? An Iran person. An American what? Is an American person. So I thought an Albanian was an albino person.
No,
Sean, I'm gonna end this right now because I'm in a losing battle.
What the hell's wrong with you?
I
Matt,
love you, Sean.
Don't you say anything. Matt is excluded from saying anything about me.
Anything Greek, I'm down with. I've never had Albanian food, but I'm willing to try it if it's got some sort of connection to Greek food because I think Greek food is awesome. But thank you, Sean. As always, appreciate you.
Like I'm tripping for thinking Albanian men was
Matt.
the grouping for albino people.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, Linnell! Oh my God, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard anyone say, and I don't say that. Like, how does he say that after the Olympics? We just did the whole Parade of Nations. Wow. I feel like I should not say anything because I could get myself in a lot of trouble in the things that, that's our show. I'm so sorry for how it ended.